It's been a while. It's been a long while since we heard anything about Cube World. The voxel-based procedurally generated action RPG that gained a lot of popularity but went through 6 years of near radio silent development, only to appear out of the blue with a release that confused quite a few and then was abandoned. After years without an update, let alone a peep, the man himself, Wollay, came back and has been back for about as long as it took me to find the milk. Sorry guys, I know it's been a while and I hope you can see some irony in the topic I've picked for today. Anyway, Cube World Omega is the new project in development. But what is it? Is this an overdue update or an entirely new game? Is this the version we've all been waiting for? And will this mend the bridge that burnt so many, or will this be a similar cycle to what went wrong before? As always, I'm Wicked Wiz, not being a man of my word this time, standing in a game I covered a while ago. Now, although that video served as a decent enough summary, a couple issues were missed that I feel are not worth missing again that I will touch on later. But seeing as it's been a while, let's start with a recap. An aspiring indie dev teased development of his passion project called Cube World back in 2011. It gained a lot of hype and in 2013, the alpha went on sale. It was well received. You could explore a procedurally generated world, do quests, fight funny little voxel creatures, earn XP, level up and skill up. But of course, something went wrong. You see, during the sale, the store was regularly shut down for maintenance, and was then later claimed to have been hit by multiple DDoS attacks. Ever since, communication slowed down with moments of radio silence and no major updates for the next 6 years. It wasn't until September 2019 where on the 7th, Wollay finally opened up about personal issues he struggled with that affected development and served as a reason for the lack of communication. In short, the DDoS attacks left a mark and broke something inside of him. Ever since, he suffered from depression and anxiety. Mix this in with perfectionism, and you've got yourself a nasty dose of self-isolation. Fair enough, no newly popular dev is truly prepared for all that attention, but this isolation resulted in changes behind closed doors. There were things planned and alluded to but then cut out, as well as new systems and features that were never announced or properly tested. To be very clear, not everybody hated this release, at least not entirely, but the general opinion is that the alpha was better than the Steam release. Amongst many posts and paste bins of heavy critique, one of the main unannounced changes was this unorthodox progression system with the removal of XP and skill trees. Instead of fighting enemies to gain XP, you had to find artifacts to level up, and to say that the gains were minimal is an understatement.
Is this an artifact? Oh my god, it is! And I'm level 2! Increases the radius of your lamp. Are you kidding me?
Most controversial was the region lock system, making hard-earned gear essentially useless and useful gear disappear when you enter a new region. But before any mods came out to remedy this, the last anyone heard of Wollay was the 29th of September 2019, and that was it. No major updates ever since. It wasn't until about 3 years and 7 months later where, unexpectedly, Wollay came back with a new tweet, an entirely new blog and post, as well as a new video on YouTube. Hi everybody, I'm currently working on a new version of Cube World. I chose the project title Cube World Omega as a reference to Cube World Alpha, because I'd like to develop it in the spirit of that version, but with a new engine and new features. Now, to keep things simple, the main takeaways from this blog post are the following. A completely new graphics engine based on Vulkan. New weather and ambient effects like rain, snow, slippery ice, moving clouds, jiggling tree leaves, and water waves have been announced. Procedural models. All creatures, players, NPCs, items, weapons, armor, and pets will be unique. Everything will be generated by an algorithm. This also allows for easy to add facial expressions. The GUI gets a complete overhaul as well. Here's an example of that. But arguably, the most promising announcement is that they're planning on bringing back experience, leveling, and skill trees for this version. This is it, the new vision. Unless I'm missing anything, it's essentially Alpha Reborn, something that people have always wanted and it's now being worked on. It's exciting stuff and I'm here for it, especially if leveling and skill trees make a comeback. Post consistency has also been relatively good. If it's not a blog post or a video, it's a tweet, just sharing something. Although, unfortunately, communication appears to remain one-sided. Comments are disabled on new videos, the blog has no commenting feature, and questions on Twitter are met with no answer. Questions like, for example, if this new version is a long-awaited update for the Steam release or a new game with a new price tag. Now, it could be that the word version in Wollay's book means update, but with the talk of a new engine, it brings up the question. Yet there's no answer or confirmation, just speculation. The general sentiment seems to be let bro cook and we'll find out later, which to be honest is what people did before. Either way, the overall response for Wollay's comeback appears to be quite supportive, and there is a lot of excitement, but unfortunately when you come back out of the blue without any explanation, you may find that the dust never truly settled. There has been a divide between opinions on this topic for a long time now, and with Wollay's return came a rough reminder of the past. With Wollay's return, here are some important reminders. Posted on Reddit about 12 hours after the new tweet. This is quite a lengthy post, written with a fair amount of passion and a real shake of the fist towards those dreaded anti-intellectual fanboys, with a stance that people shouldn't trust this comeback, that this is just another attempt at making a quick buck only to run away again. No apologies regarding his lies for the DDoS. No apologies for the mass silencing of criticism across all platforms, especially against constructive criticism. No apologies or explanations for his radio silence. No mention that things will be different this time. And as we already know, no comments allowed on his videos or blog posts. God damn, yeah, there's a lot to go through here, including things I didn't previously dig deep enough into. To figure out what went wrong with anything, you need to find the reasons why. And this post in particular provides many reasons why some people were and still are pissed about what happened, why some call Cube World a scam, and why emotions run high with this topic. Now, most of it talks about the cut, planned, and teased content. Without going into granular detail, I can say that there are valid reasons as to why there's drama, because as recapped before, a lot was changed behind closed doors, and this was the main error, the lack of clarity and communication with fans. A lot of people bought the alpha not just out of hype, but due to the promise of what was to come. It doesn't matter if it was just a $20 purchase over 10 years ago, if the original supporters got the Steam release for free, if there was a content disclaimer tucked away on the website, or how much of a risk early access is, or even how much fun it was without any major updates for 6 years. Everyone who bought the game at the time thought they were getting something else, and weren't told otherwise. Whether intentional or not, supporters have the right to voice their frustration, obviously within reason. And the reason why posts like this say that he just ran off with the money and will do it again largely comes down to the abrupt ending and the sudden chaotic beta that was met with a fed-up release, followed by the deletion of the entire blog the day after and a long cold silence till fairly recently. But why? What actually happened during the beta, and why are there claims of the DDoS being faked? If the DDoS was the reason for the issues behind the scenes, then the beta was the tipping point. Simply put, when the beta went live, many people began to voice their opinions, with questions about missing things and general critique. However, the problem was that a lot of posts were apparently deleted, a lot of discussions were locked, and some people were banned for seemingly no valid reason. I've looked into this drama a fair amount, and I have to say it's not easy to explain everything that happened without making a whole other video comparing what he said, she said versus available evidence. But in a nutshell, based off of discussions and some examples on the topic, it does look like moderation from the top down weren't too fond of criticism, or at least the volume and tone of it, taking down anything that seemed too repetitive or completely locking discussion to prevent negativity. I think it's fair to say that the odd argumentative nerd throwing slurs gets what they deserve, but locking valid posts of pure feedback because either it's not positive towards this version or debate gets a little heated if not lukewarm doesn't seem right. Now later on things became a bit more clear and understandable when Wollay's other half apologized, saying that they're new to this and just wanted to replace or perhaps remove threads with name calling and harassment. Although largely accepted, this apology quickly received a response by one user listing many examples of posts not showing harassment or name calling, going as far as somebody saying that their review was flagged and partially censored. Granted, most of these examples were locked posts with the odd ban, but I think it's fair to say that this was all a mess, and in the beautiful world of hindsight, they would have done better with a professional community manager, which to be fair was recommended quite a few times, although when somebody posted about it, they got warned, so I think that speaks for itself. The reality is that someone new to moderation was leading by example, dealing with one hell of a fire, which understandably didn't turn out too well. But was this mass silencing? Well, if it wasn't meant to be, then it looked like it, and gave the critics more of a reason to be critical. Because things weren't properly addressed, the flames got bigger. The narrative of censorship grew with each example. The divide between those who accepted the game for what it was versus those who were looking for answers grew wider. And all of that, on top of already existing issues, is most likely what drove Wollay away. This is why you'll see blame pinned on the haters by the affectionately named fanboys. But if this was the tipping point, then what about the DDoS? It was apparently the thing that triggered Wollay's self-isolation, so why are people saying it's fake? And what does that mean if it was? I can tell you what it means if it was fake. It means that Wollay lied and used it as an excuse for trauma. So for what I hope are obvious reasons, it's worth taking this seriously and explore what happened before running any theories or conclusions. Starting with some context. To set the scene, the store went live on the 2nd of July 2013, but was quickly overloaded. The issue was that to get a copy of the alpha, you had to register, but registrations quickly clogged up the site. So much so that before the big claim, Wollay said it was like a DDoS attack. Because of this, registrations were deactivated for maintenance, and this was done to prevent more people paying but not actually being able to download a copy due to the overload. Those who did get a copy faced connection problems with the launcher that also seemed to be connected to the same server, causing issues for the site. On top of 24/7 customer service, the focus was to update this launcher, but in the end, that didn't really do much to solve the problem. This is where we get the claim that it was a DDoS attack, and the only glimpse into server traffic, showing just 1 hour with a 30-minute spike at a relatively low maximum of 39 megabits per second. The DDoS claim itself was announced 15 minutes before this. So just to be very clear, this is what Wollay thought was a DDoS attack. 2 days after the claim, they interviewed with Kotaku and said that they originally assumed fault on their side, that their systems could be broken, but with total conviction came to the conclusion that all problems were a result of attacks occurring during the evening/night when their fans from across the pond would typically come online. So what made people think it was fake then? Well, it largely comes down to this one image, showing what appeared to be quite a small attack, but also an odd bump in traffic. Even at the time, some people suspected this just to be high demand, but there were still many none the wiser and took this at face value, including myself in the last video, due to minimal knowledge on networking and not pondering the orb as hard as I should. Which is why I'm diving so deep into this, because it's arguably the most important reason why everything went downhill since the alpha. To get to the point, this graph shows at best a very small attack compared to the average DDoS back in 2013. But also, if this was enough to knock out the site, then clearly the problem just came down to a lack of prep, both for demand and the possibility of people being assholes, which is totally fine. Nobody should expect a first-time popular dev to get things right at the start. Now, to be very transparent, I don't claim to be an expert when it comes to networking, but after reading into this, I'm going to throw my theories on the table with a pinch of salt. Anyway, this small chunk of a peak in traffic, hosting-wise, seems quite small. A question when looking into this is if Wollay set up his own server, and if so, was this the max bandwidth? Well, there is this post that I've used as a decent start for further research. It is admittedly hyperbolic and biased with some funny all caps, but unironically, it throws around the use of a free Cloudflare plan. Now, if Wollay was using Amazon Web Services, then the chart would look a little bit more like this. Not to say that these guys in this example are using AWS, but this example in particular is from 4 years before. Even if hosting was on a free or cheap plan from a large provider, then Anycast, a common routing method, would have helped spread out an attack. And if the basic security wasn't good enough, then you can bet the sales team would be on the phone quick to sell advanced protection. If it was some niche provider, then it's hard to believe that they couldn't just upgrade to a larger package, especially with how long this went on for. It might seem obvious, but you can never be too sure. However, it looks like Wollay wanted to host the game on his own server and host the site there too. But just to throw another what if out there, this could also not be the max bandwidth and he was just capping traffic like he did before. Saw something we didn't, but in the spur of the moment shared this image with said in post cap activated, and just never shared anything else or elaborated ever since. But it could also be that, in this case, for a first-time release, he simply mistook the backlog of demand for an attack, not really knowing what to look for, but regardless, still made the claim. Just to give you a rough idea of how many people wanted to play this game, the power of early 2010s Let's Players definitely boosted demand. As we already know from Hello Neighbor, having a content creator play your game has been a dream or a nightmare for many devs, and Cube World was no exception. Copies of the closed alpha were given to some big names at the time. The combination of streams and videos obviously increased exposure before the store went live. Because of this, I was curious to see if there were any correlations between upload date and time versus Wollay's concerned tweets. The 5th of July, 12:49 AM, when traffic clogged up registrations and looked like an attack, there were at least 3 fairly big channels posting content not too long before, inevitably boosting traffic as the views came in. The 6th of July, 2:21 and 2:36 AM, when the claim was made that they were attacked with an example of traffic. Ethos Labs and Nerdcubed both posted videos the same day. Now, of course, these are just examples and don't match the exact date or time, but I'm pretty sure you get the idea. Now, just to add to this, people were sat there waiting for registrations and the store to come back online, constantly refreshing their page, and there was even a well-known site tracker that had the option for notifications. They also said that they were attacked as soon as they opened the store or user registrations. I mean, this could have been one of the reasons why. Or smashing F5 on the Forbidden Family laptop. Let me know how many viruses your one had. So then, were the DDoS attacks a lie, a story for sympathy and widespread coverage? Honestly, to me, it's not even about that. With only an hour of traffic to see, there's no telling whether they were or weren't attacked at some point. Now, there was malicious intent before the store even went live, in the form of fake downloads. I'd actually be surprised if they weren't attacked for the age-old reason, just because, seeing as there wasn't anything really to mitigate it for so long. So to draw an answer from me, I would say that I think it's very likely they were attacked. But I wouldn't say this was an attack. This whole situation looks like inexperience meets high demand, which is totally understandable. I won't judge someone for not being properly prepared on their first launch. But it's the statement that it was all external that tells me that they didn't at least take some accountability for a lack of foresight. So does this invalidate Wollay's struggles? Of course not, because I think in the end it was more than just a DDoS attack. It was the reality of creating a product and then putting it out there. The realization that people have opinions and expectations with varying temperament. It's many developers' dream to achieve such popularity and success. But the truth is, everyone's got a plan until they're punched in the face. Everyone's got a dream, but nobody knows if they can hack it till it becomes a reality. What was just a hobby unfortunately became a nightmare. And I think we can all agree that the way things were handled was far from ideal. But that's the past, and you can't change it. But it's what you do now that regains that trust. So, with Wollay back, what's the score? And where's this gonna go? Personally, I think he's back with one goal in mind, and that's just to remake Cube World Alpha with what I hope to be more than before. I say remake because that appears to be what he's doing in the pursuit to find the perfect engine that can resolve core issues from the 2 previous versions. UE5, for example, was the most recently tested. In regards to progress, it's hard to tell because there's no roadmap, but to wipe the slate clean and to observe with fresh eyes, it's looking pretty decent. Variation seems to be a big focus, such as new world generation for less random and more meaningful landscapes. There's a clear push to making everything much more procedural, and it looks like some creatures from before have been added to this remake. There's mention of adding signature abilities to enemies for more depth and variation when it comes to combat. Pathfinding was a pretty broken thing in the Steam release, and it looks like he's trying to solve those issues so they don't pop up again. And so far, update-wise, that's pretty much it. Regardless of everything, I'm happy to see the guy back, at least just to know that he's alright. And there is something nostalgic about it, maybe in a Stockholm kind of way. I won't say his return is perfect. It is kind of understandable, but also very odd to come back without addressing some things. like why it's back now or if anything will be different this time. I don't think it's wrong to say that everyone who supported Cube World financially and more at one point or another, especially those who stuck by him the most, deserve at least something, at least some terms to go by. My only worry is if development becomes an echo chamber again, because that's what essentially kicked off the big drama from before. Of course, criticism and anger about the past will always come up, because a lot of people still feel wronged about what happened, and it's natural human behavior to warn others from past experiences. It's okay to be cautiously excited, but there is a reason as to why people have trust issues regarding Cube World. Why many would just stick to something like Valorant, a game that spawned from this chaos to reliably offer what so many people felt was lost. Maybe Cube World Omega will surprise us all, but I think for now the best thing to do is just to let bro cook, see what happens, and if this new version is free, cool, but if not, definitely wait for those reviews to come in. Thank you very much for watching. Again, sorry, it really has been a while. In contrast to prior naive optimism, these videos have proven to take their toll. 2023 was figuring a lot of stuff out, but 2024 is what I've dedicated to growth. Although, for now, just consider this channel the slow one and Wicked Wizard the more free-flowing one, where we explore some genuinely weird but wonderful games. Anyway, that's all for now. It's been fun standing again, and of course, a massive shout out to these absolute legends, who have supported my soul gem addiction for a while now. And who can forget the Wicked Slayers and Cyber Wizards? Gibbles by the dozen, Nick Waller, the Cuddly Bot, Negadan, Abby, Azalea, the Meatly, Basto, Lynn Kerr, Spooky, Rizal Bagatti, Kingswing, Distant Reality, Arcadius, Adam, Times Twice, Chris Blaga, Scotch Steaks, Big Ram, Grimba, Nikot the Brave, Borky, Ninja Cat 8, LetterOpener.mp3, and Ederic11. Anyway, see you in the next one.